PA is on my bucket list. I have a lot of clients in Pennsylvania. Good morning, Tyler. Good morning, Dusty. Okay. So for those of you that do not know who I am Mary Jo Irmen, the author of the book Farming Without the Bank and Life Without the Bank. And I teach the infinite banking concept. So we are going to talk about today clients that I met with this week, how that went, where we're getting started, all that good stuff. And so it's going to give you guys a really good idea of where do we need to begin. I apologize. I am like a little bit stuffy this morning and I have no idea what's going on. I'm assuming it is allergies. We need rain and a freeze. I'm ready for a frost to kill everything. And then we can like move on. The bugs are driving me crazy. The wasps, we need a freeze. Okay. Good morning, Caleb. Well, good morning, Brandy. It's been a while. I don't remember seeing you last week. All right. First client I talked to this week. He does not farm. He does not own a business. And it is not often that I talk to people that aren't trying to start a business or invest and they just have a job. That's it. Like, that's all he's got going. And that is rare for me to talk to somebody like that. And I think it's rare because of the fact that people that have a job and they're not looking to farm, they're not looking to start a business, they're not looking to do any sort of investments. I think it is very easy for them to just say, I'm going to put money into a 401k and that's it. That's where my money is going to go because that's what they're telling me to do, right? Well, we are, in his case, he just got a new job and he is getting massive bonuses to stay at this job. And so he is getting, for the next 3 years, huge bonuses. And then he gets stock options that they pay him every single month for, which is like 40 grand a year or something. Huge amount of money over the next 3 years. And the question is, what do we do with all that money over the next 3 years? Because in 3 years, our income's going to go down. But he's being very smart about the fact that I know my income's going to go down. I have to be smart about what I do with this for 3 years. And he works for a big, huge company. And so obviously the bonuses are pretty nice. And he was referred by his accountant because I have talked to his accountant, who is one of the few I have talked to in 11 years. Let me think. In 11 years, I have talked to probably 3 accountants. 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. It is a very rare occurrence that an accountant is looking to learn anything, much less have their eyes open to it. And this particular guy, I talked about him probably a couple months ago. And he is so good at looking at different things and what can we do and all that good stuff. And so this guy was referred by his accountant. Now, he is also, in addition to having all this bonus money, he is putting like $19,000 away into 401k a year. And I said, well, what are you, like, are they giving you a decent match? What's going on with the match? Well, the match is very good. And so I have calculators for all this stuff. And so I got out the calculator and his match is good depending on the fees. And they're saying the fees are very low. Well, I don't really care what they say the fees are. You need to read the fine print of a lot of that stuff. There was a Frontline documentary done. Oh, this was years ago already, probably 5-6 years ago. And in this documentary, they talk about all these hidden fees. Shortly after that documentary came out, the government changed everything and said, oh, you 401k IRA people, you need to disclose what the fees are. Well, now they disclose them, and everybody gets this big, huge packet in the mail, and it's all very legal language that nobody truly understands. And they rename all these fees and charges. And so, what happened in this documentary is they found out that fees and charges were about 3/4 of what was somebody's retirement. 3/4 of it was being lost to fees and charges. There have been articles done that say a true cost of a mutual fund is anywhere between 3.15 to 4.15 in fees. So if we go to 3 to 4, his fees are all being, or his match is all being lost in fees. If it's truly a 1%, his match is a good deal. And so something for him to really look at, since he's putting so much money there. The other thought process is you're putting all this money there to get a tax benefit today. If taxes are raised in the future, what does that look like? And so he really needs to look at those things as well. So for him, it's really a matter of he's going to be in this super high tax bracket for the next 3 years, depending on what happens with the new tax proposal and when that all goes into effect. Are we going to have tax issues for him? So many things for him to think about, and thank goodness that he has a good accountant to help him with those things. So we can put a lot of money in a policy up front for him, and then we can reduce what we're doing later. So in his case, we really need to pay attention to what's happening in 3 years from now, not so much what's happening today, but in 3 years from now, we still have to be able to pay the premium. So do we set that policy up so that it is high enough today? We have to set it up so he can pay in 3 years, but he may not get everything he needs in the next 3 years. Some of that may be carried to year 4 or 5, and then his regular income is going to pay. So a lot of, when we have situations like that, we have to do a lot of planning and looking ahead. What does that look like to get it all in? Where do we put it in the meantime? Because of the taxation line, we can't always get everything in as quickly as we would like. And so got to do some planning, and we got to be an honest banker. If let's say that he's got 100,000 this year, but we're only going to put in 50. Well, the other 50 needs to go into a savings account that then is not going to be touched, right? No, I'm having hair issues. Sorry. That is not going to be touched, so that we know we can have access to that money, or we can use that money for policy premium later. We cannot say, oh, well, we're going to put it there, but then he's going to go buy something and that ruins the plan, right? Because we had a plan. And a lot of times with these policies, if you're not going to go as planned, they're not structured correctly. There are different ways to structure them based on how much money you're putting in. And if you're not putting the full amount in, guess what? We didn't structure it correctly. And that structure could actually hurt cash value growth. So there is a way to do it correctly. You need to follow the plan. Okay. Brandy, no sleeping in. Let's see, before I go on. Oh, end of October. Good to know. I will let you know when I'm there. Shane. Good morning, Shane. Hey, David, Roth IRA and seed a new holding company. I don't know what seed a new holding company means. I'm not sure of your question there. Roth IRAs. So I've talked about this before. If you are going to contribute to a 401k and you have the option to do a Roth portion of that, do the Roth. Okay. You are, and most people will say, well, I don't need a life insurance policy because I have a Roth. It's the same thing. I'm going to get that income. I'm going to get that money income tax free, right? Well, there are some differences. Yes, life insurance, we can access that money income tax free if we do it correctly. But there's no risk. There's guaranteed growth, right? In a Roth, there's still risk. We don't have liquidity of that money like we have liquidity in a whole life policy. So if you're looking for liquidity, control, and guarantees, you're going to want the life insurance policy. If you're looking for, hey, I'm getting this match and I'm going to put money in the market, doesn't matter what you say, which is fine with me, it's your money. If you're going to do something in the market, then if I was doing it, I would do a Roth because of the fact that you're going to pay the taxes now. And in this gentleman's scenario, he has kids still, right? He has a mortgage, all that good stuff. He's getting all those write-offs. So yes, he's in a big tax bracket now. And he's not putting it in a Roth. He's putting it in a traditional, because when you're making $300,000 to $400,000 a year, due to all these bonuses, you're in a really high tax bracket. So you're trying to eliminate that, knowing your income's going to go down later. So for him, not the end of the world. However, he's going to pay that tax later. Chances are he may not be in as high of a tax bracket because the bonuses are going to stop at retirement, right? But he doesn't have access to it till he's 59 and a half now, or until he quits his job there. And so the question for me to him was, are you going to be buying any type of real estate? Are you going to be starting any kind of business? Because is he going to need that money liquid? A Roth, I just listened to a podcast the other day from some accountants, and they were saying that, and you can Google this as well, but a Roth, after 5 years, you can take out what you put in. So you can take out the basis. That's what the amount you put in is called the basis. You can take out the basis, and then if you leave the growth, there's no penalty, from what I understand. So a Roth may have some liquidity options. Now, you can't borrow against it, and it continues to earn interest and all that good stuff, like a life insurance policy. But if you had if that's your question, David, should I do a Roth? If you are going to be doing anything in the market, then I would suggest a Roth. That's what I would do. And of course, everybody's situation is different, like this gentleman that I talked to, but growing tax free. And you have to wonder, why does a government put limitations on how much we can put in a Roth? So this gentleman, he makes a lot of money. He's going to be making a lot of money in the next couple of years. So why is the government putting limitations on how much money he can put in? Right? Because they want all this tax money later. Good morning, Tyler. Okay, I had another client that is a realtor, and she's doing short-term rental properties, which I actually thought this was pretty ingenious. I have heard of short-term rental properties, and I've, looked at them and all that good stuff. But the way she's doing it is really a little bit different, and I like it because she's buying a house and she lives near a bigger town with a large hospital, and lots of traveling doctors and nurses come in. So she's buying these houses and turning them into short-term rentals for doctors and nurses. And I just think, how awesome is that? If I'm a doctor or a nurse or a professional traveling and I'm going to be somewhere short term, I don't want to sit in a hotel room. I don't like to travel, period, and have to even sit in a hotel room for a day or two because it's boring. I want to be able to go to a house and sit in a recliner. And when I travel, and if I do a vacation rental home by owner, like a VRBO or an Airbnb or something like that, I look at the pictures of their living room furniture. And if the living room furniture is all pretty and hard and straight, I ain't renting it. because I want comfy furniture. When I have to come back from traveling or meetings or whatever, wherever I'm at, I don't want to have to sit in a bed in a hotel room. I don't want to have to go to a lounge and sit on a hard chair in a bar. Or I don't want to have to sit in the entryway of a hotel and it's a hard, square couch, chair, whatever it is. Like, I want to relax and I want a recliner or I want a big comfy couch, right? Because that's what we have in our house. Like, how often do we go to people's houses and their furniture looks like it came out of a magazine? Not very often, because let's be realistic. Like, we want to sit there and relax and be comfortable. And so, and in our house, we have every chair in our house reclines. And yes, they look nice, but they recline. And I don't care if they didn't look nice. We love them because we like to recline. And when our guests come here, they can recline with us. They don't have to sit in a chair and no place to put their feet. And so I think it's a great idea that she's doing short-term rentals so that these doctors and nurses can have some place to go in the evening and sit outside and, how awesome is that? So one of her purchases she's going to be closing on next week, and she's doing a 15-year note on it instead of 30. Now, I showed her the difference, and I don't think she's going to change her mind, and that's totally up to her. But if she would do a 30-year note instead of a 15, she could pay it off early whenever she wanted. But if there are no tenants, she doesn't have to worry about a higher mortgage payment. The difference she could take and use it to buy more rental properties, because for 15 years, she's giving up access to money to the bank. If she ever needs it, she has to go back to the bank and borrow against that house again, right? And pay all these fees to get access to that money. And so I explained all that to her. It didn't sound like she was super interested, which is totally okay. But at least she knows now for the second property that she's buying, do a 30-year note, because sometimes it just is too late to switch all that stuff. And by the time I talk to people, it's last minute, right? Because they're going next week or they're going tomorrow or they just did it. And so if she can buy the next one on a 30-year note, that's awesome. Because the other thing she wants to do is buy land so she can start ranching. She was ranching, she's got cows already, but she wants to buy some land. Well, if we want to buy land, we're either going to need money for a down payment, or she can go through the FSA program, first time farmer program, with nothing down, but she can't have a property over $600,000. If it's over $600,000, then it's going to be split between her and the bank is going to want something down. So again, if we are looking at expanding and starting businesses and do all this stuff, do we really want to give somebody extra money every month when we could be using it to make money ourselves, right? So something to think about. The other thing that she did that I absolutely love, and you do not see it very often, is she beat Parkinson's Law. And if you don't know what Parkinson's Law is, you are welcome to read one of these books, or you are welcome to read Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And so she sold her big 1930s beautiful home. She sold it and bought a trailer house that is like, she gutted. All new pipes, all new inside. Basically, the only thing that she saved were the exterior walls and the roof. And she did that so she would have the money to buy these properties and to get back into ranching. And so this is a big deal. Not many people are willing to downgrade where they're at so that they can get further later. She is a long-term thinker and she understands that, and that is super exciting. It was super fun to talk with her. And it'll be exciting to see where all of that takes her. Because she is obviously going to get started on something. And we're going to have multiple policies along the way. because she's going to be making probably around $3,000 a month of net income off these rental properties. I'm excited to see how the short-term rentals go to that particular niche. I said, well, I thought that the hospitals typically do that. And she said that the hospital's supposed to be building some sort of apartment complex or something, but they haven't even broke ground yet. So she's, this is her other thought. She's like, instead of her saying, well, the hospital's going to be doing this, this isn't going to work. She's like, I'm going to get in and I'm going to rent these out as soon as I can so that I can beat them, right? Because if they haven't even broke ground yet, they're a year to 2 years out. Well, she can monetize for a year or two. Why not? It's so funny when I hear people say, yeah, but somebody's already going to be doing that, so I'll just let them go. I'm not going to do it then. Why? Why wouldn't you? Okay. Next one I have, young couple that they are both they're both working right now. They do want to have, they do want to start farming. He came from a feedlot operation, and working with dad is not an option. Tried it, didn't work, left, working a good job. They just they can't get an FSA loan to get their first place. So they need to have 3 years of a Schedule F before they can get an FSA loan. So he's going to have to either buy some cows and run them through dad's feedlot, or he's going to have cows and put them on shares with somebody just so that he can have the Schedule F to show that in 3 years he can buy some property. Now, the other thing that they're doing is they're looking in an area where land is quite expensive, and they want, he wants to have more than 40 acres. He wants to have more than 80 acres. And so sometimes we have to remember that if we want all this land and we want, 500 head of cattle right away, we're going to have a lot of expenses there. And so I mentioned to him as well, well, if you buy, 500 acres or 15, I think he was looking at renting like 2,500 acres. Well, then he's got this big cattle note. Do you have to buy the cattle, or can we run them on either on shares, or you do some custom grazing, which I feel like I've been talking a lot about, and people just don't think about it, or they don't know how to do it, and so they don't know if it's going to work and all this stuff. And so I don't know how to do it. All I know is I have clients doing it and they're making money. And so can you do it to make some extra money? That would be awesome, right? So you may have to do the research, because I'm sorry, I don't know how to tell you where do you find those people? How does it work? How much do you get paid every day? Yada, yada, yada. I don't know those answers. I just know the numbers, and I know that people are doing it and making money. And so do we have to buy the equipment? His other thing is I do need to buy equipment because I'm going to be new to the neighborhood and they don't know me and I don't want to go ask people, right? Well, we're not asking to borrow it. We're asking to rent it. And if we know then if we have good neighbors, right? Will they do it for us? Can we hire them custom? It's a great way to maybe meet your neighbors. And so we can't so much get in this mindset that it all has to be ours. Because when we are starting out, we sometimes have to borrow, rent, barter from other people to work our way up into where we need to go. Don't eliminate that as an option. No different than the acreage we bought. We have fence that needs to get rolled up. Like, it's down, it's been down forever, it's just a mess. I don't have the fencing equipment to do that. I'm not going to buy the fencing equipment to take down one fence. right? Like, that's not going to happen because that's a waste. Now, my husband, whom I love dearly, he would go buy the equipment because he is the guy that doesn't want to ask the neighbors. I, on the other hand, am going to tootle my little butt over to the neighbors and be like, hey, you mentioned that you have a roller to roll up all this fencing. Could we rent that from you? Because I don't want to buy one. And then I have to store the dumb thing. And then pretty soon we're like, oh, look, we need a bigger building because we have too many things. Too many things we don't use. Or can I barter? I have a local client who does fences. And guess what? I have panels that he wants. Oh, yay. I'm like, I will give you the panels in exchange for you doing our fencing. Good deal. If the timing works out, he's all in. So, do we have to go buy those things? Not necessarily. So don't get so caught up in having all these loans and getting started in a position where I am never going to be able to quit my off the farm job because I have all these loans that I have to pay back. Not necessary. Okay. Good morning, David. Ariana Berry processing. What is this? How come I did not know about this? Maybe you told me and I forgot. That's cool. What is that? Share with us, David, so we know. Okay. Then I had another gentleman that he is actually in a very rare position. I don't see this often, that he is able to, his family is not, they don't need the money. So he's got family ground. His aunt is just letting him use the ground. Nobody's charging him rent. And so he has had an off the farm job, and the cattle have always, he's got cattle. So the cattle have always just made money for themselves, right? He has calves, he sells them every year, he makes money. But his off the farm job has always come in to supplement tractors, fencing, things that he may need there. Well, he just quit his off the farm job. And so now the farm has to pay for itself. But we don't really know the numbers because we haven't really kept track of the numbers because we've always had an off the farm job. The other thing is when he had all of his information ready. So before we have a meeting, you guys get an email that says, hey, this is what I need for information. He has a couple loans that are like 6.5%. And he has a land loan that's like 6.25. I said, when did you buy that? Well, last year. Why is it so high? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, land loans right now should not be over 4.5%. Almost every single client I have that has a land loan, if they have not refinanced it, then it's high, right? But if you've refinanced or you've just purchased in the last year, they're 3.5 to 4.25. I haven't seen really anything over 5. He's at 6.25. I'm like, do you have bad credit? He's like, no. Okay. So have you missed payments to the bank? Nope. He's like, I never ever asked. I have always been able to make the payment, and I have bought stuff based on being able to make a payment. And so the bank says, this is how much it's going to be. And I say, okay. And I go in. And I said, you better go in and see if they're going to refinance that and start asking some questions. I said, because the bank isn't going to like you anymore. And he said, well, I don't like the bank anymore either. Right? Because until he read the book, he never paid attention. He is 99.9% of America. I am just going to go and buy something, and if I can afford the payment, we're good. But if I can't afford the payment, then I just can't afford it. We don't even think to ask all the questions on what are the interest rates and all, and can we get a cheaper interest rate, and check around with other banks, right? We don't think to ask that. because we buy based on payments. We shouldn't be. We need to start paying attention. And so I'm super excited to hear how the bank does not love him after all of this is done. Okay. David, what are you doing? Making a chocolate Ariana berry whey protein for crop consultants of mine. Vertically integrated. High antioxidants, cancer fighting, boost immune system. That is cool. I want to know more about that. I'm going to Google it. All right. Then that's what I had for new meetings this week. A lot of people canceled again last minute. So here's the thing. If you guys are on the list, if we have a waiting list, if you're on the waiting list, if somebody cancels, then we can call you and get you in right away. So if you want to get in sooner, or if you want to be on the waiting list, let us know. Because, here's what's happening is it's harvest, right? And so maybe it didn't rain, maybe it did rain, whatever. Something happened. Oh, I got to run and get parts. We had one of those the other day. Something broke down. I have to run and get parts. And so they have to reschedule their meeting. And it happens a lot this time of year just because of the time of year. So if there is something that you guys have been waiting to get in, or you don't want to wait to get in, just let us know that you want to be in the waiting list. And then we'll call you the second that somebody has to cancel. All right. Then I had a couple of people that we actually issued some policies on this week. One was just very, very small. We did $2,000 a year of premium on each one of them. So a total of 4, but we had to keep our minimum, because there's a minimum and there's a maximum. We had to keep our minimum under that $2,000 mark, just in case, because they're just getting started. They're a young couple. And so that totally works. I suggested even doing something smaller and then doing term insurance on one of them, and they did not like the idea of term insurance. Now, you guys, I write about it in the book. It's not evil. Like, term insurance isn't the end of the world, right? It's not ideal to have long term, but it is not a bad thing to have term insurance today that we can convert to whole life later. And that is what I am talking about when I talk about term insurance. We have it for a purpose of converting it later. What happens with the premiums? They're gone. They're gone. We don't get to keep them. And so they didn't like that part of it. So they're looking at doing 2 whole life policies instead of 1 smaller whole life and a term insurance. And they have to figure out, it's ultimately your decision on finances. I don't come in and say, oh, this is what you can afford. No, it's you being the banker. It's you running your finances. And so they have to be okay with those numbers. And that's that. So end of the day, they're getting started, very small, and it's totally okay. If somebody tells you have to put in $10,000, $20,000 a year, that's a bunch of hogwash. Had another client that I talked about this last week, I think, or maybe the week before, that was table rated, which means not the typical health rating. So there's a preferred, a select, and a standard. And then after that, the insurance gets more expensive. So we put the same amount of money in, it's just not buying the same amount of death benefit. Here's the thing with a table rating. So it goes table B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. I don't think I've had anybody lower than a J. I'm sure you can go lower than a J, but I've never had anybody lower than a J. So the further down we go, the more expensive it gets. The thing when we get into table ratings, B, C, D, we don't have to worry about taxation, because the cash value grows slower in those policies. They're still good policies, but let's just say that your break-even point is typically your 10 or 11. They're going to be 13 or 14, 15. So the cash value is going to grow a little bit slower in those policies. So that never mechs. It never becomes a modified endowment contract. So those people may not be as healthy and it may cost them more, but they can actually get money into that policy. They can get a full premium into that policy their entire life. Where other people, they can put a full premium in, say we're going to do $10,000 a year, okay? You can do that for maybe 15 years and then it's going to go down to $2,500 because it's going to become taxable. That doesn't happen when we are table rated. So even though we're paying a little bit more for insurance, that just comes with the health rating. That just is what it is. Cash value still works, and it's actually okay because we're going to have money we can stick in our entire life rather than having to start new policies all the time. And then I have another gentleman that I talked to. We're starting a policy. We're going to do an upload. We're going to front load it because they have some death benefit proceeds that we can front load it with. But then we have to be very careful where we go with premium in the future because of the fact that he is a contractor. We don't know how much money we're going to make. We don't know what jobs we're going to get. And so then we have to reduce that premium or make it so it's comfortable going forward, but we can give it a little boost right now. So we got started on something for him. Okay. That's all I got today. That's it. It's been kind of slow. I'm not going to lie. It is fall and people are busy, and so it'll pick up again in the winter. And it is kind of nice to have a little bit of a break because I have been doing some writing for some farm magazines and doing some articles for theirs. So that's exciting. If you guys have, we're also in, like right now, hot and heavy, right into farm show season and all sorts of conferences and those sort of things. So if you guys have a conference in your area and you belong to an organization that's looking for speakers, I am happy to come and speak and share this with anybody that wants to hear. So if they're looking for speakers, just let me know. I have a couple of them that are in the works this year. And meaning in the works because of COVID. We don't know if we're going to have them or not, right? Because nobody knows what's going on. If they're canceling stuff again or if we're just going to push through. Nobody knows. So let me know if that is something, or, just share that information with whoever's in charge. Okay. If you guys have not gotten the books and you've not read Farming Without the Bank or Life Without the Bank, do that. If you have not read Nelson's books, Becoming Your Own Banker or Warehouse of Wealth, make sure that you get those as well so that you are more versed on everything that we're talking about. Okay, you know where I'm at if you need me. Mary Jo at withoutthebank.com, or you can just message me here on Facebook and I will get back to you. If you need anything, let me know. So until next week, have a good weekend and a good week, and we'll see you next Friday.